How can small market teams like the Mets and the Yankees possibly compete with the behemoths of the Rays and the A's? It's just not fair.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they call it these days. And on Instagram, I'm your pal Sully, about Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. You can follow us right here on the YouTube channel. And thanks so much for making us the number one sports podcasting network. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 to get $250 in bonus bets. If your first bet wins, head to FanDuel.com to get started. On today's episode, we're going to be seeing that it's never the right time to go on a 7-game losing streak, even if it's in the middle of April. The Red Sox are getting their groove back, and we say goodbye to another member of the 1979 Pirate family. But first, those two teams that crashed on the couches of minor league stadiums last year, one's still doing that. The other's trying to get themselves a stadium. The two poster children for the worst case scenario in terms of stadiums and current situations, the Rays and the A's said, bring on New York. And both of them did so with a chef's kiss flawlessly. The A's today, the Sacramento A's or the West Sacramento A's, however you want to call them, got a home run from Nick Kurtz, who has been an incredible disappointment so far this year. But the A's said, hey, let's keep putting him out there. Maybe something good will happen. And something good did happen. He hit himself a home run. All right, not a huge outpouring, but it was a home run. And the A's could file that under good enough because Aaron Civale, another pickup because the A's are starting to add players to the team. You know, it's a shame they couldn't do that in Oakland, but let's just move on. Aaron Civale wound up pitching into the 6th inning. I didn't walk a batter, didn't let up a run, and the A's bullpen basically went the rest of the distance and shut out the Mets. 1-0. It looks like the A's have won a bunch of 1-0 games recently, which is strange. Freddie Peralta, the big pitching pickup that the Mets did in the offseason from Milwaukee, he did a good job. He let up the home run to Kurtz, and he let up 3 walks and 3 other hits, struck out 6 batters along the way, and the solo shot was the only run of the game. It's just the Mets bats could not get anything going. Nothing. Nada. Not a little thing. And the Mets wound up getting swept by the West Sacramento A's. And I'm telling you something. I know many a Met fan. I know some Met fans are listening to me right now. And when they circled the calendar at the beginning of the year to see West Sacramento was showing up to New York, I'm sure none of them thought, well, there's 3 losses right there. In games that, the other day they didn't, the Mets bats have been absolutely dead. I mean, they scored a few runs yesterday, but they've just been completely shut down. And now the A's pitching was not supposed to be the big story for the A's. The A's pitching was supposed to be their weakness, and it was their bats that were supposed to be pushing them a little bit closer to 500. Well, you know what? The folks of West Sacramento, you take what you can get. And as of this recording, partly also because the Rangers wound up winning the game in Los Angeles, the Rangers and the A's are currently tied for the top of the American League West. Again, it's too early to be looking at standings and having to think it means something. But, at this point, getting out of the gate is important. And make sure you don't stumble out of the gate early. And the Mets right now, again, too early to look at the standings, but this is a Met team, huge budget, huge expectations, 5-game losing streak right now. It's never the right time to lose 5 games in a row. One other team is saying, hold my beer. The A's are on a 5-game winning streak because of the 2 wins at Yankee Stadium and the 3 wins at Citi Field. It's never the wrong time to win 5 games in a row. The Mets are now 2 games under 500 and are officially stumbling out of the gate. They can't afford this. Now, of course they can. They can right the ship. They can correct things. But this is a Met team that really did the whole Rubik's Cube to try to create a whole new persona for the club after falling short of the playoffs last year. And it's funny, the pitching has been doing the job recently, but I have no idea what their lineup is right now. And they did not look very good. But of the 2 New York teams that got swept, they looked heads and shoulders better than the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees lost again. They are in a 5-game losing streak of their own. So there's a lot of streaks going on right now. The Yankees got out of the gate looking great. And remember, at one point, they were 8-2. They were 8-2. And looking at, we got the A's, we got the Rays, here we go. How do you beat the Yankees? Well, the Dodgers, I talked about this at length the other day. You just put the ball in play. But today, it was, again, another example of the Rays bunting, going first to third, sac flies. They did all the tiny things. And the Yankees got a 2-run home run by Aaron Judge, and they lost again. If you play smart baseball, you'll beat the Yankees. If you saw how they played in the bottom of the 10th the other day, where it was clear, I mean, even Josh Chisholm said afterwards he wasn't sure if who he had to tag or what order to do for a double play. Little leaguers know that. He wants to be paid 35 million tomatoes for a 10-year deal. Have fun with that. Have a lot of fun with that. Yesterday's defense was a Keystone Cop routine. Today, they just saw the Rays bunt and run at will. They got 1 homer, and they swept the Yankees. They swept them. Now that they're sitting on top of the standings right now, along with the Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles, who did their job against the San Francisco Giants, who again, with their manager who had the Giants are not exactly causing anyone to be inspired in San Francisco right now. It's early, but we'll see. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that the Red Sox are getting their groove back, and the Houston Astros. I know saying this will make me a hater, but man, this is not good. Now let's hear from our good friends over at 5 Hour Energy. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all the sugar. That's why the Confetti Craze 5 Hour Energy Shot brings a nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. This is that classic taste you remember, but with a tasty caffeine boost and 0 sugar. It's a quick, easy, satisfying way to get that sweet craving out of the business and keeping things nice and simple on the go. I love the birthday cake, but I can't be eating birthday cake all day. People look down upon you if you walk around with a giant sheet cake and a fork. But do you know what? This is a perfect alternative. Confetti Craze 5 Hour Energy Shots. They taste like birthday cake. Vanilla and buttery flavors let you unapologetically feel energized and get that sweet tooth craving down. All cake, no sugar. You can have your cake and sip it too, minus any sugar guilt. I like how convenient it is. It's small. It's a portable shot. I can keep it in my desk in class in case I need a little pick-me-up between periods, and it becomes my go-to when I want something sweet, but I don't want to go overboard. The Funfetti flavor is back on 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Crack open confetti craze 5-hour energy shot today. Hey, it's so great that the baseball season is back. It's finally back. And to celebrate, I'm giving you a full month of the Everydayer Club for free. Go to lockedonmlb.supercast.com and use the code FINALLY. You'll unlock every episode ad-free and get access to our private listener group chat. Tap the link in the show notes and use the code FINALLY to claim your free month. Let's take care of some other bits of business. I did the trivia question about the 1979 Pittsburgh Pirates, and sadly, there's some more news about the 79 Pirates for later in the show. But the question I had is, what future Hall of Famer had the highest WAR total for the 1979 World Series champion Pittsburgh Pirates? And John Italia-Z8J said Willie Stargell. Well, that's what you'd think would. He was the co-MVP of the National League in 1979 and also was the World Series and NLCS MVP. And he was Pops. We are family, and he is indeed in the Hall of Fame. But no, Willie Stargell wasn't in the top 5 of WAR for the 1979 World Series champion Pittsburgh Pirates, which again makes me kind of wonder about WAR. Nope, Harry Edelman 9922 got it correct. The man right over my shoulder right here. Trivia answer, the Cobra, Dave Parker, led the 1979 Pirates in WAR. You're an everyday Sully. That's correct. I still have no clue how WAR is calculated. Willie Stargell was 9th in WAR on that team that he won the MVP. Not 9th in the league, 9th on the Pirates, and was a co-MVP. Hey, I don't understand it, and I'm sure Pirate fans don't really care because of what Willie Stargell meant to that team. Let's talk about who owned baseball for April 12th, 2026. Jose Soriano struck out 10 Reds over 7 shutout innings. The Reds scored a bunch late, but it wasn't enough as the Angels won 9-6. Chris Sale won the Sunday night game. By the way, Jason Benetti is absolutely killing it. I love the NBC Peacock broadcast. I think they're terrific. I think the announcers are good. The production value is good. I am all in. I hope they cover the World Series. Chris Sale pitched in the night game. Was great. 6 innings, and the Braves rolled to a 13-1 laugher over Cleveland. Ty France went 3 for 3 with a home run as San Diego beat Colorado again 7-2. And Wilson Contreras got 4 hits, including a home run, as the Red Sox topped St. Louis 9-3. The Red Sox, who got off to that rancid start, are starting to click a little bit. Even though Roman Anthony is still struggling, they're starting to win. They're starting to have those rallies that are hit. It's kind of like, they're not sitting back and waiting for someone to crush the ball out of the ballpark. And that always makes me feel good, because when teams are just waiting for the big home run, that's a way to neutralize a talented team. Half wobs. Aaron Judge, speaking about teams waiting for the big home run, Aaron Judge got on base twice and hit a home run to pull the Yankees to within 1. Wasn't enough. Bryce Terang reached base 4 times, including 2 home runs. And Brandon Woodruff allowed 1 earned run and 1 unearned run over 6 strong innings. But Milwaukee lost to Washington 8-6. And no American League starting pitcher on a losing cause was worthy of a half wob today. Nobody, not one. So I gave Daniel De Los Santos, who threw an inning and third shutout relief, but the sliding Astros dropped the 6-1 finale to the Mariners. Astros fans, I know I poked the bear when they got swept by the Colorado Rockies, and that evidently makes me a hater by pointing out that you don't want to get swept by the Colorado Rockies. Go figure. I'm sure that same fan who called me a hater, while completely ignoring the fact that I rooted for the Astros to win the World Series in 2021 and 2022, I'm sure he's thrilled that the Astros, who started the season 6-3, including a sweep of the Boston Red Sox, have now dropped a week of games, 7 games in a row. Again, it's never the right time to lose 7 games in a row, especially if you're a team like the Astros who are trying to right the proverbial ship. Yes, I know the Astros are having a ton of injuries on their team. Their pitching staff is really, really hurt right now. I get it. I get it. But first of all, I don't care who's hurt. You got to win a game against Colorado. And again, I don't care who's hurt. When you're playing a game against Seattle, now Seattle's not off to a great start either, although they're on a 3-game winning streak right now, and they're starting to right the ship. Especially if they can be under the impression that they can outplay the Angels and A's and Rangers for the rest of the way. There you go. But if you're trying head to head with Seattle, you've got to win those games. Because if they win the season series, then all they have to do is tie you. That's all they have to do. That's what happened to the Yankees last year. Remember the Yankees were tied with the Blue Jays for the best record in the American League. But because the Blue Jays won the head-to-head series, the Yankees were on the outside looking in as a wild card team. The Astros, you can't afford to lose games to the Rocks, and you can't afford to get swept by the Mariners. I don't care if the entire team looks like a mash unit. You got to squeeze a win in there, here, and there. But you know what? There you go. There you go. So, we're going in. We're in the middle of April right now. Again, you can't go score. You can't do standings, examinations this early, except this interesting thing. This is the only thing I'm going to be looking at with the standings right now in the American League. You have 3 teams in the American League now who are 8-7 in the American League East who are 8-7. Then 2 in the American League East who are 6-9. You have 2 teams that are 9-7 in the Central, and a couple teams that are 7-9. You have 3 teams that are 8-7, or 2 teams that are 8-7 in the AL West, and 8-8 and 7-9. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 teams who are 8-7. You don't have anybody who's more right now than 2 games above 500 a couple of weeks into the season. In other words, in this small sample size, in what is just about 1/10 of the season, most teams have played between 15 and 16 games. So that's about 10% of the season right there, roughly. Roughly 10% of the season is in. And everyone in the American League is right around the same spot. Exactly the way anyone would have predicted. There is no super team. There is no team that right now is playing horrific. The fact that the Twins have played recently, I thought the Twins and the Angels would be 2 very bad teams in the American League. And right now, they're playing all right. So no team is collapsing. No team is running away with it. Which means if you're a team like Toronto, who has had piles of injuries, who have lost 8 of 10 games, who have looked lost, and did I mention lost recently? But the fact that they're still just floating around 2 games out of first shows that no one is picking up the ball and running with it. No one is giving themselves a little distance out of the gate, which is fantastic news if you're the Blue Jays, if you're the Red Sox, if you're the Tigers, if you're the Astros, if you're the Mariners, teams that had really high expectations for this year, they've not come out of the gate looking particularly strong. Don't worry, no one else is either. And because of that, those teams have plenty of time to right the ship. We come back, we're going to say goodbye to a baseball lifer who did, well, just about everything you could want to do in a baseball career. Now, the NBA playoffs, they are upon us. They're this week, and every possession matters. Every matchup is magnified. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You could bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. It isn't just it just makes the whole playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. Well, let's head over to FanDuel right now, and the playoffs are beginning this week, and the NBA championship odds to win the whole kit and also the caboodle has the Oklahoma City Thunder at plus 115. That's right. They're the overwhelming favorites to repeat as NBA champions. The San Antonio Spurs are plus 500. My Boston Celtics are plus 550. And then you have the Denver Nuggets at plus 110. The Cavaliers at plus 1,100. And then fans in New York, do you dare dream? Do you dare hope? They have the Knicks at plus 2,000. Here's what you got to do. You got to head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, and wondering if they really got your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and to book your appointment. Well, sad news. Phil Garner, who was a member of the We Are Family Pittsburgh Pirates of 1979, had a good, solid, long all-star career where he made 3 all-star teams, 1 with the Oakland A's and 2 with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and had wonderful seasons with the Houston Astros towards the end of his career, and became a successful manager in his own right, has died. He was 76 years old, and his birthday was just right around the corner. He was almost 77. And Scrap Iron was a member of the Oakland A's farm and played as the end of the dynasty. He played in the playoffs in 1975 and looked like he was going to fit in perfectly with his terrific A's team. And then made the All-Star team in 1976. And when they broke up the A's with free agency looming, the A's actually made a really good trade. They traded away Phil Garner and got back a couple of really good players from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mitchell Page became a star for the 1977 A's, and Tony Armas became a huge home run hitter and led the league in home runs with the A's in the strike season. Later won another home run title with the Boston Red Sox. But Gardner fit in perfectly with the Pittsburgh Pirates starting in 1977. He was a good, solid hitter, had some pop, would hit home runs in the double digits, stole a ton of bases, and he was Scrap Iron. That was his name. That was his nickname. Had the big, huge mustache, fit right in the 70s, fit right into the Pirates clubhouse, and was a spark plug on the team that wound up winning went on one of the great World Series runs of all time in 1979. And he had a terrific friendly rivalry with Dave Parker as they jabbed each other all the time. And Phil Garner wanted to play his country music, and Dave Parker wanted to play his Motown. And I love the fact that Dave Parker called him Yosemite Sam. He was significantly shorter than Dave Parker. I think most of us are. And had the big mustache. I guess he thought he looked like Yosemite Sam along the way. But the fact of the matter is he was a great scrappy player. Scrap Iron was the name, and played for the Astros when they went on the terrific run in when they went to the League Championship Series against the New York Mets. Later, as a manager of the Brewers, he took a Brewers team that hadn't contended for a long time and brought him to a 92-win season in his first season as a manager. and had some success with Milwaukee, but eventually lost his job there. Didn't have much success in his short term with the Detroit Tigers, but he wound up taking over the Astros as manager in 2004 when Jimmy Williams basically had the team spiraling. And he took over, and they went 48-26 the rest of the way and got to Game 7 of the National League Championship Series. Remember, back then, the Astros were in the National League. And the next year, while he fell short of a division title, the 89-win Astros finally got to the World Series. Their first ever pennant, and the only pennant they won as the National League team, were the 2005 Astros, where they survived. The main thing people remember about that Astros team, it's so funny, is a game that they lost. The Albert Pujols home run off of Brad Lidge when the Astros were on the verge of clinching the pennant at home, and Pujols hit that famous home run. What people forget is the Astros won the very next day. The Cardinals didn't win that series. Didn't even go to Game 7. It went to Game 6. And the Astros finally won the pennant, and they got swept by the Chicago White Sox. And that's a bit misleading because the White Sox, it was actually a tight series. It wasn't a tight series in terms of games. Obviously, it was 4-0. But it was a walk-off game by the White Sox in Game 2. It was a 14-inning game in Game 3. And it was a 1-0 game in the clincher. So the last 3 games were all nail-biters, and a bounce here and a bounce there, and the Astros win one of those games. But either way, he managed the Astros to their first ever trip to the World Series. He did about everything you could ask for in a major league career. Beloved in Pittsburgh, obviously, and fans in the Astros fans have to love him for delivering that first pennant that had been so elusive. In fact, it was under Garner that the Astros won a playoff series for the first time in their history in 2004. When they lost playoff series, they lost absolute heartbreakers. The 1980 NLCS was arguably the greatest postseason series ever played. Astros lost that. They lost a heartbreaker to the distance to the Dodgers in 1981. The series against the Mets was a mind-boggling series. They lost a bunch of series to the Braves and one to San Diego. They always lost these heartbreaking games, and it wasn't until 2004 that they finally, for the first time ever in their history, won a postseason series. And it was the first time a Texas team ever won a postseason series. It took till 2004, and it was under Phil Garner. Rest in peace, Phil Garner. Man, we've lost 2 really hard-nosed World Series champion, all-star second baseman from the 1970s and 80s with fantastic mustaches who later became managers of the Milwaukee Brewers. Davey Lopes and Phil Garner. That's a unique brotherhood right there. Well, thanks so much for listening to Locked On MLB. I'm going to tell you, on Wednesday, I have an episode. I'm going to talk a little bit about taxes. It's tax day. I'm going to talk a little bit about stadiums. I'm going to talk about revenue sharing and the ways that we can avoid a lockout and maybe avoid building multiple billion-dollar stadiums. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On MLB and get all the latest episodes, and follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they call it these days. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On MLB ad-free, plus membership-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonmlb.supercast.com to join the club. Check out the In Memoriam video. It's in the show notes here. For those of you on video, send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And also check out all the other great shows on the Locked On Podcast Network. And let's go through the trivia question, shall we? The new trivia question is, here it is. Who was the first Rays player to hit 40 home runs in one season? There you go. We talked a little bit about the Rays. Who was the first Rays player to hit 40 home runs in one season? Talking about the Rays and A's and how unfair it is that they have such an advantage over the New York teams, by being smart. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.